Our next guest says to learn the history of Chicago, all you have to do is visit a few of the city's drinking establishments with a rich past. Sean Parnell is author of Historic Bars of Chicago. Thanks for coming in, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
This must have been a fun job, just drinking your way through 100 and something bars and then writing a story about each one, right?
Indeed it was.
Yeah. What can you learn about Chicago from its saloons and taverns and pubs?
Well, so much. It's hard to know
You
where
can't
to
learn
start.
anywhere else, I guess is what I want to ask.
Well, so many facets of Chicago's history can be found in Chicago bars today, dating back to Prohibitionary times, former speakeasies, mob connections, famous movies that were shot in Chicago bars, places like Billy Goat Tavern that are well known for the Curse of the Cubs and their Saturday Night Live skits.
We're going to talk about Billy Goat in just a minute, but I think one of your favorites is the Berghoff downtown. It's been there for well over 100 years, right? Dates almost back to right after the Chicago fire.
Yes, that's right. And the brewery was initially started in Indiana, but then they started Berghoff back in the early part of last century and was the first bar actually to get their license following Prohibition. So they beat the mad rush to City Hall to get that.
And still owned by the Berghoff family.
That's right.
And also, how can you certainly can't pass up the Billy Goat, made famous by Mike Royko, the Chicago Tribune columnist of late, and John Belushi from Saturday Night Live. Before you talk about it, I was actually surprised to learn that they are still saying that famous word, cheeseburger. We got
cheeseburger. Any Pepsi?
Coke, no Pepsi, Coke, and no rice chips.
That's one of any number of YouTube videos about the Billy Goat. It's been there a long time, hasn't it?
It has, and actually, when a friend of mine came with me on one visit, he said, the big guy, double cheese. So they still do it every day.
No chips, Pepsi, no Coke, right?
You got it.
And the Burwood Tap, that's just a perfect example of a neighborhood pub, isn't it?
Absolutely. A neighborhood tap for a long time, and actually came to the aid in 2003 after the porch collapse, you might recall.
I do.
So a lot of their bouncers and bartenders ran out there, and that was a speakeasy during Prohibition as well, and still has a lot of novelties, from back then all over the walls and what have you. So
we've got a lot of musical acts on the WGN Midday News, and it seems like quite a few of them perform at the Elbow Room, and that's one of your favorites.
Yep, that's right. A great alternative music venue, but actually started its life as a rotisserie chicken restaurant.
What can you say about the Gale Street Inn? Where is that?
It's in Jefferson Park, and it's the oldest rib joint in Chicago. It's got great ribs, and if you go on Mondays, you can get $4 off.
Okay, and Glasgott's. I'm not familiar with that one either.
Yeah, Glasgott's is a classic Lincoln Park tavern, still run by the Glasgott family as it has been since it opened in 1934. And actually, one time, the owner brought a horse into the bar. After locals saw it outside, they said, well, bring it in, and he actually slapped it on the rump, and it started to run through the bar.
The Gold Star Lounge.
That's right, a classic Yuki Village hang where Nelson Algren used to frequent, and also is haunted.
Really? And Miller's Pub, I've been there. It's down in the Loop.
Yeah, Miller's Pub is a great restaurant in the Loop with excellent ribs and Tom and Jerry's at Christmas time. So that's a favorite of mine when I'm downtown.
Sure, I always like Miller's Pub. The Rainbow Club, not familiar with that, but there's interesting spelling, R-A-I-N-B-O.
That's right. It used to be a burlesque club back in the 30s, also a Nelson Algren hang. It actually was the inspiration for the Tug and Maul, which is a bar he wrote about in his book that won the Pulitzer Prize.
How about that? Slugger's, classic sports bar.
Yep, absolutely. And my favorite is the batting cages upstairs where I used to go as a kid after Cub games.
Been there a few times. Scheller's Pump, I think I've been in there. Where is that?
Yeah, that's in Bridgeport, and that's the oldest bar, continuously run bar in Chicago. So it's great for Sox fans and former speakeasy.
And finally, the Village Tavern.
That's the oldest bar in the Chicagoland area, so that's in Long Grove. Dates back to 1849 and is a great place. They have Dixieland Jazz every day and great food as well.
It's interesting. All of these pubs reflect something about Chicago's history. Some of them began as speakeasies, and something else I noticed, a lot of the North Side bars reflect the gentrification that began back in the 80s. You see a lot of that?
Yes, absolutely. And bars in Chicago have always been a place, to gather and meet friends and to have a few drinks and, talk about politics and sports. And that continues to this day.
Because there was an earlier time when only men frequented these places, and now it's, of course, all co-ed. Sean, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Sean Parnell joining us this midday. He's signing books tonight from 6 to 8 at the Green Door Tavern, another very historic place at 678 North Orleans. To learn about his other book signings, log on to WGNTV.com/midday.